Alright, it's 1985 and Hollywood's got plans for a new action hero franchise based around one very unusual assassin. Today we're looking at Remo Williams, The Adventure Begins, a movie that aimed to create the new 007 and instead became one of the most fascinating one-off cult films of the decade. So here's the setup. The film follows Sam Macon, a New York cop who's officially declared dead, only to be secretly recruited into a covert government organization. He's given a new identity, Remo Williams, and trained to become the ultimate weapon, an assassin who operates outside the law. His mentor, a mysterious Korean master named Chun, who teaches him an almost superhuman discipline called Sinanju. Together, they take on a corrupt defense contractor. It's part spy thriller, part martial arts film, part comedy, and honestly, that mix is exactly what makes it so memorable. Leading the film is Fred Ward as Remo Williams. Ward had this grounded, everyman quality. He wasn't your typical chiseled action star, and that actually works in this film's favor. You might recognize him later from movies like Tremors, where he leaned even further into that rugged, slightly sarcastic persona. Then there's Joel Grey as Chun, and yes, this casting choice is complicated. Grey, best known for his Oscar-winning role in Cabaret, delivers a performance that's equal parts theatrical and eccentric. It's undeniably entertaining, but also a product of its time, with all the baggage that implies. J.A. Preston plays Harold Smith, the no-nonsense head of the secret organization, bringing a kind of quiet authority to the role. Wilford Brimley, yes, that Wilford Brimley, appears as the gruff government figure McCleary, and you probably know him from everything from The Thing to Cocoon. And rounding things out is Kate Mulgrew, who later became iconic as Captain Janeway on Star Trek Voyager, here playing a determined army major who gets caught up in Remo's mission. Now, when this movie hit theaters, the reception was, let's call it mixed. Critics had questions. Was it a serious action movie? A parody? Something in between. The tone shifts from deadpan humor to high-stakes action left some reviewers scratching their heads. Audiences weren't exactly rushing in either, and despite being based on the long-running Destroyer book series, the film didn't perform well enough to launch the franchise it clearly set up. So at the time, it felt like a misfire. An ambitious one, but a misfire. But you know that's not going to be the end of the story. Over time, the film's reputation has softened, and in some circles completely flipped. What once felt uneven now feels unique. Modern audiences tend to appreciate that odd blend of tones a lot more, especially in the era where genre bending is the norm. It's developed a cult following, with people celebrating its weirdness rather than criticizing it. It's one of those movies where you can say, they don't make them like this anymore, and actually mean it. Watching it now, decades later, the themes land a little differently, too. The idea of a secret government turning someone into an off-the-books operative taps into ongoing conversations about surveillance, power, and accountability. Back in 1985, that might have felt like pulpy escapism. Today, it hits a bit closer to reality. And then there's the mentor-student dynamic, Chun shaping Remo into something more than human, which feels almost like a precursor to the kinds of relationships we now see in superhero training arcs. There are also interpretations that audiences may have missed the first time around. Underneath the action and humor, there's a subtle commentary on identity. Remo isn't just learning new skills, he's being erased and rebuilt. His old life is gone, and he's forced to reconcile who he was with who he's being turned into. It's a surprisingly introspective thread for a movie that also features rooftop fights and improbable acrobatics. Speaking of which, yes, we have to talk about the iconic scenes. The Statue of Liberty sequence is the standout. Watching Remo scale the statue during its restoration, defying gravity, it's pure 80s action magic. And it's the kind of set piece that sticks in your brain, even if you haven't seen the movie in years. And then there are Chun's training moments. Walking on water, balancing impossibly, delivering deadpan insults that give the film its distinct personality. As for influence, well, it didn't spawn sequels. You can see echoes of it in later action films that blend humor with espionage and martial arts. The reluctant hero trained to greatness. The quirky mentor, the mix of grounded and absurd. It's a formula that shows up again and again. In a way, Remo Williams feels like a prototype for things that would become more polished and more successful. And honestly, watching it now feels different in the best way. You're not just watching an action movie, you're watching a moment in time when Hollywood was willing to take a swing on something weird. It doesn't always land, but it never feels generic. There's a sincerity to it, even when it's being ridiculous. And that's something that a lot of modern blockbusters struggle to capture. So yeah, Remo Williams' The Adventure Begins didn't quite become the beginning it promised. In much the same way as Buckaroo Banzai was never able to deliver on its expected film sequels. But maybe that's part of its charm. It's a one-of-a-kind experiment. Flawed, fascinating, and just strange enough to keep people coming back to it decades later. Should Hollywood revisit Remo Williams today, or just leave it as a cult classic? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe to join me for more trips back to the video stores of old.